Now, a really, really, really central fundamental exercise is foot crawling. And this is the idea of getting as low as we can, trying to get those heels down and moving the feet and exploring on the ground. This is excellent for all aspects of the structures we're looking at, the arches, the Achilles tendon, the ankle strength and mobility, deeply stretches the calf. And of course it also gets into the hip, we start to get into the spine to some level, we condition the legs at a massive level. So it's a win-win-win across the board. Now to do this, I would love to have my heels on the floor. That's the end goal. If I have a slight hiccup, a slight space under the heels, where I'm kind of popping up and down a little bit, that's fine, that's forgivable. But again, I would rather have the experience for the cultivation of having my heels down. So if I need to grab something, put a strap around a punching bag and hang back, or if I need to, grip onto a wall, then I should do it. Or simply start again from a distance and lean back into the wall. This is fine, this is good. Now, another thing I can do as well, for example, in our school we use a lot of these phone books that are just covered in duct tape. We use them for punching, we use them for all sorts of practice. You can line those up, make a little shelf for yourself, and this allows you to control height going from one book to two books, and you can place your heels on there. It's almost the equivalent of a squat hack, a little bit of a cheat, much like a meditation pillow to help save your knees over long periods of kneeling meditation, and this is fantastic. What's beautiful about using a ledge, regardless of your capacity, is that you can grow it further. So I can get my heels all the way down to the ground, but when I work it with the heels up, I start to feel more of a lateral sort of strain. I normally get it more balanced over the bone. Now it starts to work the outside. I can also play with lifting up my toes, taking my toes off the ground, and working that balance. Now, of course, you can do that just by transferring your weight, but you try to do it more muscularly. You try to lead from the toes first, and then lift and bring your weight back. And this is fantastic. You'll feel all of the insteps and the ankles being worked. And you find that core stability in the ankles and in the feet. It's fantastic. It's a really great workout. So that's easy to do. It's an easy fix. It's cheap. Old books of any type, preferably of the same size so you don't get wonky. Otherwise you'll start to question why you're walking around in circles all the time. But I just want to get this kind of a low squat. Now, from the low squat, I have two basic ways that I can work. I can work on my width, meaning I move my feet further apart, or my depth. To work on my width, what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to use toe movement and heel movement. So I'm going to lift up just to show you, be on the balls of the feet, and place my hands over here on the side. I can lift up my heel and rotate it out, and then transfer and rotate my toes, and transfer and rotate my heels, like that. Right? So toes and heels. I can go wider or narrower. This kind of work on width is fantastic. I can work on the width of my knees to work more on the hips and to stretch. But even in stretching the hips, I'll start to feel my ankles. And all of these poses you'll see in yoga, like the crow, where I open up my knees and I lean forward. These are fantastic. These are great. Very often what I'll do is I'll kind of get my arms inside and churn. So I'm working all of my thorax and my arms, my upper body, but at the same time, I'm working my hips, working my ankles. I can even go on the blades of the feet and lift up. So this kind of work is excellent. It's just fantastic work. The heels can lift, and I can rotate at any time. Right? There's no wrong or right way. I just want to explore how from this low farmer squat I can go wider and narrower. And this basic work is amazing. Secondly, I can work depth. Depth involves moving forward with my mass and moving back. So the simplest way to do it, if I didn't have heel down capacity, I cheat with the wall and I work here. But now I work at moving my tailbone up and forward. And I see when do my heels lift. I can open. This is more for the hip, but it also works the ankles. Or I can just stay within and I can kind of churn with the hip. So this type of movement, working over my base, is fantastic. However you work, I can't encourage you enough. Make it fun. Make it fun, guys. So often when we confront our limitations, it's, we can moan and we can make jokes about it, but at the base, I joke and I complain all the time. I get up in front of my students, I'll say, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, and I'll be all dinged up, and there's a lot of truth to it. but it's a razor's edge, because inside of that comment or inside of that mindset, you're either going to be fundamentally negative and discouraged and depressed about those injuries and those limitations, or else you're going to be challenged by it. And I cannot emphasize enough the need to thrive, the need to see the challenge, the need to fight it. We are all in different phases of capacity. We're all on a spectrum. I'm in a capacity phase where, of course, getting older, I'm losing, I'm deteriorating at a genetic level, at a natural level, but I'm trying to gain where I can, maintain where I can, and slow down as much as I can all the rest. You'll all get there someday if you're not already ahead of me or at the same point. When we're young, we have all sorts of other frustrations, limitations that we want. We want to gain size and strength and mass. It's far harder when you're younger to conserve your energy because it's just so easy to use it. But however you're working out and whatever you're working out, look at the fundamental motive. Try to find not just a survival reflex, a desperate reflex, but a thrive reflex, a desire to maximize, to seek, to learn more about your body, to gain more, to get the best that you can. It's the whole, if you got lemons, let's make lemonade kind of mindset, but that's fundamentally what it is. Because a lot of people will make exactly the same comments that I'm making, and they'll complain and they'll joke, but then you learn over time that deep down inside they're feeling something more deeply rooted and more negative. This type of work is tough, right? It can be challenging. Sometimes when you can't get your heels down, it's just pure out frustrating, and it's so easy to quit. And it's so easy to say, well, I'm never going to have that. I'm not flexible. I don't have that genetically. I didn't have heels down when I started Sistema, and I had a lifetime of jiu-jitsu behind me and other martial arts. But I gained it, and I gained it early on, partly because the exercises were good despite being taught poorly. I started to see little glimmers of hope, and then I started educating myself and seeking out external sources and better sources and mixing them together. And I'm trying to put them all down in one package as clearly as I can. But I wish back in time when I was a teenager or a younger man, somebody would have said, hey man, just do this for intelligence and for health and grow your body and have fun with it and play with it. And I would have avoided so many injuries, and I would have grown so much more quickly. So when doing this work, find a way to make it fun, find a way to make it playful. But at the end of the day, whatever you have can be improved, even if it's only in an awareness of what you have. I've said it in other downloads. The founder of SEAL Team 6, Richard Marchenko, once said that there's a misconception about elite Navy SEALs or elite Special Forces people, that they can all bench press 500 pounds or do these miraculous physical feats. And he said while they all are extremely physically fit, the true defining characteristic is that they push their limits, they know their limits, and they respect their limits. So that on any given day, they have a very accurate, intuitive, innate understanding of what they could do right then. They know because they've tested themselves so much. They know to walk away, to attempt to climb or not attempt to climb, to do a jump or not attempt to jump, to hold their breath or not hold it. They know, and they've failed and been broken, or in our cases, been hit and tapped out so many times that they go, yeah, I'd rather not. It's not worth the risk, and they walk away. And that's really the sign of a mature warrior in my estimation. So doing this kind of work, find no excuse to make an excuse. Laugh about it, joke about it, celebrate your limitations, get into it. The longer you squat like this, the more you will gain. When I was living in India, I would see people, in their 90s, half blind, working in markets, squatting like this effortlessly, never shifting. And I trained at some Gushti, at some wrestling schools there, and from the little kids up to the elders, people could sit in this, work in this, jump up. There was no lactic acid, there was no soreness in the knees. They maintained this capacity all the time. And so we can grow it back to a higher level, always be gaining, and we can be maintaining this very, very easily. But we need to get past the ego, get past the judgment, get past the self-doubt in order to do it. So find a joyful place to do this work, guys.